Welcome back to our Entitled People series, where you all come to hear stories about people who truly think they can do no wrong and that the world revolves around them. In this episode, you're going to hear 7 stories. The first story involves someone finding a lost cell phone belonging to an entitled person. The second story features a woman and her kids breaking into a swimming pool. The third is a juicy revenge story involving a Karen. My friends, I hope you stay for these stories today and hit that subscribe button for future stories. About 10 years ago, I saw someone lose their smartphone in real time. I was driving behind her and saw it fly off the top of her car on a busy highway. It was a little dangerous, but I pulled over, waited for a break in traffic, and darted out to grab the phone. Miraculously, it was unharmed. I kept driving around doing my errands until her phone rang about 30 to 40 minutes later. I told her where the phone had flown off the roof, how I retrieved it, and mentioned that she must have placed it up there while getting gas or something. Her response was, "Okay, could you bring it to me here in my town, 30 minutes away, please?" I work at a pizza joint. I told her that was nowhere near me, as I was in my hometown, and said, "You can pick it up here. I'll meet you at the Dunkin' Donuts." She got annoyed and said, "Ugh, I can't drive all the way to your town. I don't know your town. Let's meet halfway at this popular restaurant." I pointed out that the restaurant wasn't even remotely halfway. It was still in her town. She then said, "I don't have time for this," and put her boyfriend on the phone. He said, "Dude, what the heck is your problem? Give her back her phone already." This went on for a few minutes, with the boyfriend getting more and more aggressive. I have zero tolerance for this kind of behavior, so I hung up on them and turned off the phone. I was going to visit my grandfather the next day, so I kept the phone with me until then. When I got to my grandfather's town about 2 hours away, I turned the phone on, called the girl's father, and told him everything. He was very apologetic, and I'm guessing it wasn't his first time dealing with her behavior. I told him that due to her rudeness and her boyfriend's thinly veiled threats, the phone could now be picked up at the local police station in my grandfather's hometown. The dad's response was, "Well, it looks like she'll have a 3-hour drive both ways this weekend. Sorry again." I was a lot nicer than many people would have been. While scrolling through the comment section, I saw that the vast majority of people said that, after the boyfriend started yelling, they would have happily gotten back on the highway and tossed the phone out the window. Next story. For some background, a new family recently moved into my neighborhood. The neighborhood is relatively small and close-knit, the kind where everybody knows each other and we all get along well. The new family consists of a middle-aged couple with their 4 children, whose ages range from 14 to 2. I was hanging out in my living room, relaxing and watching TV. From the couch, I have a clear view of my backyard. That's when I noticed the retractable cover of my swimming pool starting to roll up. I was home alone, and no one else has access to my backyard. For insurance reasons, I keep a lock on my back gate because of the pool, and the gate always remains locked, as we would be liable if anything happened in the yard. I rushed outside to see what was going on. There I found the entitled mother standing next to my pool with her 4 children, all dressed in swimsuits. She was rolling up the cover of my pool. I said, "Excuse me, what do you think you're doing in my backyard?" She replied, "My kids have been well behaved today, and they want to go for a swim. I saw that you have a pool, so we're going to take a dip." I told her, "This is not a public pool, and you're on my private property. I never gave you permission to come onto my property." She then snapped, "Who do you think you are? It's a very hot day, and my kids want to go for a swim, and they will." I responded, "Not in my private pool, they won't. How did you even get in my yard?" "The gate's locked." The entitled mother said, "Well, in my old neighborhood, we did this all the time. My kids are going for a swim now, and you won't even know we're here. You're just being selfish, and I won't let my babies suffer because of your bad mood." Now, really angry, I told her, "I won't ask again. You either get off my property, or I'll call the police. You're not using my pool, and that's final." At this point, the entitled mother finally got the cover off and said, "Okay, kids, jump on in." Don't listen to her. I told her I was going to call the police, and she saw that I was serious. She tried to reason with me, saying, "You really won't let 4 kids go for a swim on a hot day? What kind of heartless person are you? Just let us swim for an hour and we'll leave. Don't you want to be a good neighbor?" I replied, "No, I don't. You just broke into my backyard without permission. Please get out now." The woman mumbled something to her kids, grabbed her 2 youngest, and started to walk out of my yard. I then turned around and saw her 2 oldest boys standing by the pool. As I started walking over to tell them to go with their mom, I saw what they were doing. Her 2 oldest kids were urinating into my pool. She turned to me and said, "Maybe that'll teach you to be a better neighbor. You deserve it." I grabbed the arms of the two oldest and pushed them out of the gate, saying, "Get off my property, you disgusting kids!" The entitled mother shouted, "Don't you dare lay a hand on my babies or I'll call the police on you. Who do you think they'll believe? A good mommy or a pathetic little psycho like you? You got what you deserve. Enjoy swimming in your contaminated pool." They all walked off, laughing as they returned to their house. I was in complete shock and didn't know what to do. I now wish I had called the police after the first incident, but sadly I didn't, and things have escalated with this family. I later found the lock on my gate broken on the ground. I have no idea what they used to smash or cut it, but they were successful. I've since purchased a much heavier duty lock. If I were in that situation, I would have let her call the police. I'd have loved for her to explain to the officers, "Oh, well, officer, I decided my kids were allowed to use this person's swimming pool, but the gate was locked, so I had to cut the lock, of course. Then I was trying to take the cover off the pool that I didn't have permission to use, and this homeowner came out, grabbed my boys' arms, and assaulted them. So, please arrest this person now and lock them up." Some people are just absolutely ridiculous. Next story. For some background, my cousin recently opened her own salon. From a young age, she taught herself how to thread and wax eyebrows and developed an interest in makeup and hair. In 2020, she had a full-time job that wasn't salon-related but decided to renovate the basement of her home to create a small salon space. She now spends her free time taking clients at her home salon, and she's received nothing but great reviews. Our city is currently in a lockdown until the end of January. The salon has been closed since the lockdown began, and the salon's social media pages have been updated to let clients know it's closed. Now enter the Karen. Karen saw a community post from October detailing a discount the salon was offering on a certain package. She commented on the post, saying she couldn't believe the salon was open in the middle of a lockdown when her salon had to be closed. This detail is important for later. Karen failed to notice that the post was from October, when salons were allowed to operate as long as they followed safety regulations. She didn't bother checking more recent posts indicating that the salon was closed. My cousin didn't see her reply at the time. The next day, 2 police officers showed up at my cousin's door while she was at a doctor's appointment. The officers asked for my cousin, and my aunt, who doesn't speak English very well, let them know she wasn't home. The officers insisted on coming inside the home even though my aunt struggled to communicate. My cousin managed to get hold of the officers and was told that someone had reported her business, claiming she was open and providing services during the lockdown with proof. My cousin knew this wasn't true, as the salon had been closed for quite a while. She had seen Karen's comment by then and mentioned that she knew exactly what their so-called proof was, a post from October. My cousin was very upset, as the post was not even close to being evidence of her operating in January. She was also upset that the officers insisted on entering the house without cause or a warrant, especially when they could see my aunt didn't understand English well. At the end of the conversation, the police officer apologized to my cousin, and we thought that was the end of it. You might be wondering how we know Karen was the one who called the cops. Well, she told us. The next day, my cousin received a message from the woman who commented on the post. Karen pretended to be a customer, asking, "Can I book an appointment?" My cousin replied, "Hey love, we're currently closed due to the lockdown. Once the lockdown is over, we'll be more than happy to book you in." Karen then said, "Oh, my girlfriend was there yesterday. My apologies." My cousin told her she must have gotten the date wrong, as the salon wasn't taking clients until the lockdown was over. Karen responded, "No, I didn't get the date wrong. I also know that the police came due to you being open. I own my own spa that's closed, as yours should be. Go back to your own country instead of being in ours." My cousin blocked her at this point, happy it was over. Her sister and I were still outraged at the racist comment and how someone could make up lies about a small business that led to cops terrifying my aunt. When my cousin told me about Karen, the fact that she had her own spa stood out. I did some digging. Here's the revenge. It turns out Karen runs her own spa out of her house. While snooping, I found reviews on her business page from clients posted during the lockdown. The reviews could have been from clients who received services before the lockdown and only wrote reviews later, so, to be sure, I found Karen's Instagram page. I used her own trick against her. I created a new account and followed her page so she couldn't see I was related to my cousin. I messaged her saying, "Hey, I love your pics. I was wondering how much you charge." Karen replied, "Hey girl, thank you so much. What services are you after?" I told her I was interested in the BB Glow facial, and she responded, "That's awesome. That's my biggest seller for sure." Normally, it's $125, but it's on a buy one get one deal, so you pay for one session and get two. I said, that's such a great deal compared to others. When's your next available date? Karen responded, where are you located? I can't have people come to me during the lockdown, but I travel to my clients. So Karen wasn't operating from her home due to lockdown restrictions, but was traveling to clients' homes. I made up a lie about my home not having adequate space and asked for her address so we could meet at my friend's place, somewhere between our locations. She foolishly gave me her address. I also joined community groups she was part of. In one group, where people were promoting their small businesses, she had recently posted about discounts on her services for January. I immediately submitted a report about her business still operating, including screenshots, her address, and full name. A few days later, I had forgotten to check up on it, as I was busy with life. Then I saw the incident report number on a sticky note on my desk and decided to follow up. Apparently, this wasn't Karen's first offense. She had already been fined $750 for having a client in her home during the first lockdown in our city. After that, she changed her business model to go to clients' homes instead. Now she was fined $10,000. I was still following her on Instagram, so I checked her page. She had gone on a rant about how she was going to do very bad things to the person who reported her. At the end of the day, Karen got what she deserved, and I fulfilled my dream of pretending to be Sherlock Holmes. It always amazes me how people who live in glass houses love to throw stones. I have no idea what Karen was trying to pull, but did she feel entitled to destroy other people's businesses because she was caught operating hers? I have no idea. She might have just been really spiteful. Next story. For reference, this happened yesterday. I was on the bus, heading home from a drugstore after picking up my prescription. A bit of backstory. I'm unfortunate enough to be HIV positive, and because of this, I have to take antiretroviral drugs every day. Otherwise, the virus will further damage my immune system. Due to recent events in this country, I've been working from home, and as a result, I've really let my appearance slide. On this particular day, I was wearing some baggy sweatpants and a worn-out hoodie. I guess, from a certain perspective, I could look a little homeless. After a couple of minutes on the bus, I noticed a little kid staring at me. I suppose my appearance might have frightened him, but I'm used to getting odd glances, so I went back to minding my own business. At this point, I started to take my medication while on the bus, mainly because I didn't want to forget later. While this was happening, I got a sharp reminder that people were watching. Cue Karen, the parent of the scared kid, screaming at me, "How dare you? Do you people have no shame?" I was shocked and could only say, "What?" She continued yelling, "What do you mean, what? Who do you think you are? Stop popping pills in front of my kid in a public place, you filthy junkie." At this point, I started to get mad. I held up the bottle and tried to explain that it wasn't what she thought, but before I could finish, she tried to snatch the bottle while shrieking about how I'm a leech on society and how, if I was raised right with real parents, I wouldn't be a disgusting addict. That last comment really made me angry because both my parents work hard and are wonderful people. I kind of lost it and said, "What the heck would you know about parenting? The day your kid moves out will be the happiest day of his life." By now, she'd completely forgotten about the drugs and launched herself at me. At this point, Karen and I had the attention of pretty much the entire bus, including the driver. Luckily, we soon came to a stop, and the bus driver helped remove her and her kid from the bus, but not before she yelled some questionable things on her way out. Did she really try to steal someone's medication and accuse them of being a druggie on a bus? Oh, Karen, you're a special human being. Next story. It all started when I decided to learn how to drive a stick-shift car. Since my brother-in-law is the only person I know with a manual car, I had him come over to teach me. When the car starts up, it does make a rather loud reverend. We made sure to practice in the afternoon to avoid waking people up and tried to be considerate. It was about the third or fourth day of him teaching me when she first appeared. Karen said, "Nice car. It's a bit too loud for my taste, but it's still nice." I told her, "Oh, thanks," and she asked, "Do you mind trying to keep it down a bit? My baby doesn't really seem to like it that much." I replied, "Yeah, sure. We've been driving during the day so it doesn't wake people up. I also didn't know anyone around here had a baby, so I'm sorry about that." Karen responded, "It's not a problem. Just be quieter, okay?" with a condescending tone and a smile on her face as she walked off. That kind of made me mad because I thought it was just a friendly chat. 2 days went by with no sign of her. I woke up, got ready, and waited for my brother-in-law to come over for my lesson. I walked outside, and lo and behold, she was there. Karen said, "I thought I told you to keep it down." I told her I'm sorry, I can't control it. It's just how the car starts, and we're not going to leave it running. She snapped, I don't care! Stop being so loud! And with that she was gone. My brother-in-law arrived, and off we went. We came back to my house to eat lunch about 2 hours later, and my mom and sister came over. As soon as they walked in, they asked my brother-in-law what happened to his car. We went to look, and the entire driver's side was scratched up, and a tire was popped. The only person who came to mind was Karen. We walked down to her house, which was only a few houses away, and knocked on her door. All we heard from the other side was, I'm not apologizing. This led my brother-in-law to say, then you better have a good case in court because that's going to cost a lot to fix, and I'm suing you for every cent. Karen replied, maybe keep it down then, you hick. My brother-in-law shot back, well, maybe don't go keying cars and popping tires and you won't get sued, you jerk. This went on for about 20 minutes. We headed back, called the police, and got everything ready for what was about to come. As soon as they arrived, we explained what happened, how I was learning to drive stick, how the car was, the damages, and what Karen said. After a while, we walked with the police to her house, and it went about as well as you'd expect. The police officer said, excuse me, ma'am, can you come out here for a minute? We just want to speak to you about the car. Karen replied, I'm not apologizing. I told them to keep it down, and they didn't. They deserve it. The officer said, ma'am, what you did is against the law and they're pressing charges. You have 5 minutes to come out here or we'll get a warrant for your arrest and come back. Karen responded, nice try, but I'm not stupid. I know my rights, and you're not allowed to enter my home without consent or a search warrant. The officer told her, that's only partially true. We can't search your home without a warrant, but if we have a warrant for your arrest, we can legally enter and place you into custody. She was stubborn, and they went back and forth for a bit. After the allotted time, we went back to my house, the cops left to get a warrant, and we waited. Currently, the lawsuit is in progress, and the trial is in a few days. She is in police custody. I've never found it easier to drive stick, knowing I won't have to deal with her condescending ways and tones. I really don't understand how Karen got so worked up over this. My brother-in-law and I weren't sitting in front of her house revving the engine on purpose to make noise. We started it and most likely drove away. Some people can be so malicious. Yes, the car's loud and you have a baby, but that doesn't give you the right to key someone's car and damage their property. Next story. Due to my job at a supermarket, I meet a lot of different people, and most of them are incredibly nice and respectful. However, I also encounter a lot of Karens and male Karens, and this story is about one of them. It was midweek and I was working the tills when a man, the entitled dad, and his son approached and began loading their shopping. They had a lot of items. After scanning everything, I told them the total was around £145. The dad rummaged through his wallet, pulling out notes, but after counting he was a few pounds short. He decided his son should put something back so he could pay. The kid was upset but reluctantly obliged. However, the man standing behind them at the till spoke up and said, I can get that for you, clearly talking to the kid, not the dad. The kid smiled, but before he could say anything, the dad said, Thank you so much. It comes to £145. He threw his son's items into the trolley and moved aside to let the man come forward. The other guy then said, I was talking about your kid's stuff. I'll buy that, but I'm not paying for your shopping. I can't afford to... The dad replied, But you just said you would pay. The man clarified, Yeah, but I meant I'd pay for your kid's stuff, not yours. The dad snapped, Well, you can't just make empty promises, you have to pay for it now. He looked at me and said, That's how it works, right? He has to pay because he promised he would. I told him, unfortunately, he doesn't have to pay for anything you buy. The entitled dad shot me a dirty look and told his son to pass his stuff to the man behind, who was still nice enough to pay for it, which is a lot nicer than I would have been. They both left. Midway through serving the nice guy, I saw the entitled dad and his kid at the cash machine through the window, withdrawing more money, meaning he could afford it all along. The nice guy and I had a good laugh about that. At least the dad didn't pull the lame joke, saying, Well, I don't have enough money, so it should be free, right? Guys, I can't tell you how many times I heard that when I worked at Quiznos and something was wrong with the till. Oh, something's wrong with the till? The payment's not going through? I guess the sandwich is free, right? Oh my goodness, some people. Next story. This happened a few years ago when I was 18. The revenge wasn't technically done by me, but I'm a key witness to the events that occurred. For context, I used to work at a big chain store in the deli department. It wasn't a great job, but it was my first one, and it helped me pay for college, so I endured it. However, because of what I was subjected to, I quit shortly after, despite the great outcome. In my hometown, with a population of 4,500, there was a small group of PTA moms who were high up in the chain of command and also ran their own company for party planning. They were known mostly because their daughters were best friends, straight-A students with 4.0 GPAs, and all three were supposed to be valedictorians. I knew them because they were the we hate drama crowd but always spread drama about people. Not only that, but all three daughters were accepted to Ivy League schools on full-ride scholarships. Their one fault, besides the drama, was that they were arrogant, entitled, prideful people, and incredibly rude to anyone who wasn't rich or in great shape. One day, they came in asking for 300 pieces of fried chicken and 200 pinwheel sandwiches. Anyone who's worked in retail food knows that for an order that big, we need at least a couple of days' notice to order inventory and cook everything on time. Not to mention, I was the only one working that night, so their order would have been impossible anyway. I told them they would need to fill out an order form and that it would take a couple of days. They flipped their lids, not a small sigh of disbelief, but vague threats to prevent me from walking at graduation. Here's how the conversation went. PTA Mom 1 said, I need this food today. We're the party planners for the lake party you probably didn't get invited to, and the party's in 2 hours. I replied, I'm sorry, but we literally don't have the staff or time for that right now. I'm happy to make you a 96-piece order, but it'll take about half an hour. PTA Mom 2 said, You think that's funny? Do you think what I'm saying is a joke? Do you know who I am? I told her, No, I don't. PTA Mom 1 said, Yeah, we're the official party planners of this hometown. We also run the high school PTA, so our daughters probably know you. You don't want your image tarnished, do you? Brushing off the vague threat, I said, That's pretty cool. It sounds like a great job, but there's just no way for 300 pieces and 200 pinwheel sandwiches to be done in that amount of time. I apologize for any inconvenience, but if you want, I'm happy to get a manager to talk to you. PTA Mom 3 said, When your manager gets here, I'm going to have you fired and kicked out of walking this year. I replied, Ma'am, I'm sorry, but I won't tolerate that kind of threat, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave now. The manager walked out at this point and said, Excuse me, ladies, but you have no reason to treat my staff like that. You may think you run this town, but it does not give you the right to treat someone like that. The PTA moms stormed out, yelling obscenities at us. A few days went by, and I hadn't heard anything from them or my manager. Then, one day at class, I saw the daughters in a corner crying with each other. I got word from one of their friends, who was somewhat close to me, that in the past few days, they were told they could no longer walk at graduation due to being caught cheating on basically every assignment and were no longer attending any Ivy League school. At first I thought it was a coincidence, but apparently a bystander overheard the heated exchange. This bystander was a former PTA member and had a lot of dirt on the mothers and their children. It turns out the mothers were getting answers to every assignment by either paying off teachers or using vague threats against their families. Because the school was small, only a handful of teachers needed to be bribed or threatened. That was my moment of happiness. Not only did these women get kicked out of the PTA, but their daughters, who used to bully me, were dropped from attending the schools of their dreams. Last I heard, the daughters stayed in the hometown and now work in the same deli department I used to work in. This is a great example of entitlement backfiring. Way to go, moms, for opening your big entitled mouths and power-tripping on this poor girl to the point where you ruined your kids' chances at graduating and attending an Ivy League school, which they didn't earn in the first place. These stories are a delicious blend of petty revenge and karmic justice, and I'm hooked on the creativity behind each comeback. The smartphone story blows my mind. I've lost a phone before, and if someone went out of their way to save it, I'd be grateful, not entitled. The owner's demand for delivery and her boyfriend's threats are absurd. Dropping the phone at a police station 2 hours away are perfectly petty. I'd have been tempted to toss it too, but OP's restraint made the point clear. The pool trespassing tale is infuriating. Breaking into a private yard and letting kids urinate in the pool? That's next-level entitlement. I've dealt with boundary-ignoring neighbors, and OP's firmness in threatening police action was spot on. The broken lock and better neighbor guilt trip show how delusional some people are. I'd have called the cops immediately. The salon sting is brilliant. Karen's racist lie to shut down a competitor during lockdown is vile. I've seen small businesses struggle, and her spiteful report could have been devastating. OP's Sherlock-style investigation, catching her operating illegally, and the $10,000 fine? Pure justice. Glass houses indeed. Karen's hypocrisy got shattered. The bus incident with the HIV medication is heartbreaking. I faced judgment for health issues, and Karen's junkie outburst is cruel. OP's sharp retort about her parenting was deserved, and the driver's intervention was a relief. Snatching medication is unhinged. I'm glad she was kicked off. The car vandalism story enrages me. Keying a car over a loud engine is malicious. I've had neighbors complain about noise, but property damage is a crime. OP's lawsuit and Karen's arrest are satisfying. Her defiance sealed her fate. The supermarket encounter is peak entitlement. The dad expecting a stranger to pay for his entire cart? Shameless. Seeing him withdraw cash later proves his deceit. I laughed with OP and the kind stranger. The deli story is a triumph. The PTA mom's threats and arrogance are infuriating, especially targeting an 18-year-old worker. Their daughter's cheating scandal and lost scholarships? Karma at its finest, exposed by their own hubris. These stories show how entitlement crumbles under clever retaliation. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of another Entitled People episode. If you missed the last episode, check it out if you haven't. I'll see you all in the next one. I love you.